and thanked them for making these beautiful crop circles and communicating with us this way and bringing our attention to these mysteries and wonders and other possible civilizations out there in space. And then it said, I would really like, please take me for the making of a crop circle. And I really did mean it. And especially when I thought, well, okay, I wouldn't be aware of everything, and so therefore it wouldn't be too scary. So I went to England, and about 3.5 weeks later, I realized, I don't think that has happened. And this is my last night before the last day of visiting crop circles this year. So I remembered, luckily, and I asked again very vehemently, and I turned off the bedside table lamp to go to sleep, and then I saw 3 figures coming toward me from the window, and there was backlight, coming through the window, outside light. I could see just silhouettes, and they had heads that were much bigger on the top, didn't look like they had any hair. I couldn't see any features.
Very unattractive.
Oh, yeah, definitely not humans. And little necks, little shoulders, short beings.
I'm already ready to scream for the scream you didn't do.
I didn't. And what I did was lift my head from the pillow because I was excited, actually, a little scared, yes, but excited, thinking, oh, maybe they were really going to take me for the making of a crop circle. And then they sort of backed up as I lifted my head. And then I put my head down, and they started coming toward me again, and then I was just out of consciousness totally until the alarm clock rang and woke me up the next morning. Well, that very next day, the big group I was with, it was a conference group, and we got on board a double-decker English bus, drove about 45 minutes, and from the top deck of the bus, I saw a field that we had gone by the day before, and it had no depression of the crop in it, but this day it did. I could see, it looks like there's a crop circle over there, a new one. And so when the bus stopped, I rushed out, hopped into the car of a friend of mine with a couple of other people who heard me exclaiming about this, and we went back and we were the first ones in a brand new crop circle, which was a wonderful thrill. It was beautiful and so fresh and sparkling with a little sound even. And so I, finished that trip and came home. And a few months later, I asked a colleague to regress me to that night where I had asked again for being taken for the making of a crop circle. And lo and behold, the whole thing unfolded. I think it's true as far as I can tell, preposterous as it is, and was taken from the bed out through the wall where the wall meets the ceiling, out through the air guided by 3 beings behind, and then sort of lifted up into a small, round enclosure. I assume it was a craft up in the air. And we proceeded with the process of making the crop circle, which was very, very quick. And then I was returned back to bed again and remembered nothing until this regression. So in my estimation, this was really a very positive, wonderful thing that these beings had responded to my sincere request. And this reminds me that there are many people I've met who really want to have contact with other beings, with extraterrestrial beings. And they ask me, do you think it's possible for me to have contact, even though I don't think I ever have had encounters with them before? And I say, yes, I think it's possible. I can say that with conviction because I asked for it, and it was granted. And I said, if you want contact, definitely ask for very benevolent beings only to come to you, because there are many, many different types of beings that do come and interact with people. Some of them seem to be much more self-serving and seemed to be very uncaring about studying us and doing all kinds of physical procedures with us and putting implants in us and taking samples of skin and fluid and do reproductive processes with us too. And if that's not the kind of experience you want, ask for the very loving, benevolent beings, which there are many, many of as well. And to ask them, talk out loud and energetically send your positive feeling and your thought out to them and honor them and appreciate them, compliment them, and say why you want this kind of contact. And
very interesting.
Are quite likely that this wish may be granted. I don't know if it's a sure thing, but if you really want that kind of contact, it does work sometimes and is worth trying.
Very interesting. I imagine that your views about God and your views about a creator may have changed, if you had any at all.
Well,
Could you talk about that?
Yes, I did. I was brought up in a very liberal Protestant church, which my family was very, very active in. And I married a young man who went through theological school. I feel like I went through it with him unofficially while I was supporting us. And then he became an ordained minister and was with the church for, probably about 10 years on the East Coast of the U.S., and that was a different time of life. And so definitely that was something I thought about a lot. God, what is the nature of God, and what is spirituality? And then in later years, I would say that I've become more spiritually oriented and very much believing that there is a creative source, there is God, there is this source that can be thanked and can be prayed to. And I still feel that. And then with these contacts with the extraterrestrials, I have sort of a reinforcement about all this when they talk about it, because these beings too, these extraterrestrial beings, at least many of them, talk about how it's just absolutely assumed amongst them that there is this creative source, there is this living creative energy, and they're all part of it. They recognize that we call that source God. They don't necessarily have a name or a word for it, such as we do, but they definitely have a sense of that allness, oneness, creative source, and which we would call God.
Do they recognize that it's intelligent or more intelligent than them, if you know what I'm saying?
Yes, they do attribute great intelligence to this creative source. And it's something that, at least with some of these groups, seems to be so interwoven into their understanding of things. And they're more psychic anyway, many of these species of beings. More psychic, more intuitive, more knowing. They all seem to be telepathic in their communicating, and therefore they know each other's thoughts. They know everything about everyone. There are not secrets and hiddenness like we have here with our human species. So it's just much more open, mutual, accepting, and that creative source is part of it all, which they seem to accept very naturally. So they don't, at least the groups that I've been able to get any information from these regressions and from the channeling, they don't have churches per se, they don't have religions, they don't have different groups with different beliefs, they don't have conflicts between groups because of that sort of thing.
Do you think that that's really possible, Barbara, no matter how spiritual